Wild Review. I'm the Wild Reviewer, and today I'm going to review a thing. Have you ever given a review on something and years later you wonder if what you said still holds up? Well, I have! Hi there, I'm the Wild Reviewer, or at least I was told that's who I am, and this is Rewild, a sequel series to an old review show I used to do called The Wild Review. It ran for 6 seasons from 2015 to 2018, and some of the things that I've talked about, I have different opinions on. Or maybe I don't. That's the whole point of this series. If you are watching this, then that means you are joining me on an adventure as we are going to take a journey into my past to see if what I said in a previous Wild Review episode still holds up. We're gonna make comments about how young I used to look and stupid I used to sound sometimes. It kinda depends on what I was talking about. So, unless you have somewhere else important you need to be, which I highly doubt, seems like you're gonna be taking a journey with me into the past. This is the Wild Review Rewild.
Wild like wild.
I thought the name was cool. Hello, welcome to the Wild Review. I'm the Wild Reviewer. Welcome back to another episode of Rewild. This is the episode where I break my shirt rule. If you haven't caught on, and also if you didn't listen to one of the things I mentioned was going to be a part of this series, I am trying to look a little similar to how I was portrayed in the video that I will be watching. Specifically matching up the shirts that I wear in the video in this video, because I thought it'd be fun. Today we're going over my Loud House review, and in that episode I was wearing my Doctor Who shirt, the same Doctor Who shirt that I wore in the Doctor Who review, which was the last episode. I am such a geek! The shirt is clean. I'm able to wear it now, but I didn't feel like wearing the same shirt back to back. Thought it would be a little awkward. Holy Christ! So instead, I am wearing this cool Rick and Morty Doctor Who shirt that I've had for a few years now. I found the design online and I had it put on a shirt. I think they do sell shirts like this. I thought it was cool, so I got one for Christmas. On today's episode of Rewild, we are going over the Loud House, like I just mentioned. This video was made in 2017, about a year, I think, into the Loud House's run. Is that right? Yes, the Loud House premiered on Nickelodeon in 2016, and close to a year later, I made my first video on it. And I think a lot of us had the same thing to say about the Loud House when it first was put on Nickelodeon. It was kind of a breath of fresh air. And it's an example to show that Nickelodeon does care about its cartoons, you know, for the most part. The Loud House focusing on a young boy trying to live in a humongous family with his parents, but also 10 sisters, which is a very original idea. In 2016 was seen as just an ordinary show, but a lot of people liked it. It got a lot of good reception. It was around the time where the marathons of SpongeBob were overtaking the network. Also, there were a lot of really strange and bad shows on at the time, and when it came to the cartoons, it was like a graveyard. Nickelodeon has been very questionable when it comes to their animated shows, and when it came to the Loud House, I feel like a lot of people feared that it was going to be one of those shows, much like Harvey Beaks and the remainder of Fairly Odd Parents, which was already out the door at that point, and the Ninja Turtles. It was feared that it was slowly going to be phased out by Nickelodeon because it wasn't SpongeBob. But it did the exact opposite. It essentially became a SpongeBob, which is the first time since SpongeBob that this had actually happened. The Loud House was a hit, and I mean a really big hit. For a while, it felt like it was a genuine Nickelodeon show that had a fair amount of time on television. It had a great story it was telling, and it felt very relatable to kids, specifically those that feel like they come from very big families. Is feel like the right word? I don't think that's the right word. You are either from a huge family or you're not from a huge family at all. Whatever the case is, the Loud House obviously had to be talked about by me because I needed to talk about it. So I made a video and I talked about it, but it's been 5 years now, and surprisingly, the Loud House is still airing, which is something we're going to talk about. A lot has come out of the Loud House, and there is still a lot more to come out from the Loud House, which we will get into. But for now, let's take a trip back 5 years into the past to see what I had to say about the Loud House and if it really holds up. Now keep in mind, this I think is a series overview at this point. Other than the Christmas episode, which I know for a fact I discussed in this video, there definitely wasn't a lot that I had to go over. I think it was more of just like analyzing the characters and the story that was being told and just the series overall. So I think it's a series overview. So let's see if what I had to say back then is still holding up to this day. If you've been with me for a while, you'll kind of know my overall opinion on Nickelodeon. The way that it's run and the way that its content has been. I know for a fact I'm not the only one that feels this way when I say that Nickelodeon is not like what it used to be. The shows were funny, creative, and imaginative. The way that they promoted the shows were clever. And the way that they just interacted with kids alone was genius. Nowadays, Nickelodeon has crap shows, and the fact that they're trying to fit in with today's generation by being hip with all social media stuffs and dabbing and doing online trends just to fit in, it makes me cringe. Nickelodeon hasn't been on its game in a very long time. Some of their work and content they put out is extremely sloppy, and we're not the only ones saying this. Nickelodeon stars has come out and have expressed their feelings about the network, seeing on how badly they've been treated. And with the exposure of some news articles that have reached social media the last couple of months about some shows that are being transferred from the main network to a network that claims to be the killer of all Nickelodeon shows, or at least the animated ones, we can kind of see how they deal with business when they don't have something that they find good anymore. They are very sloppy, yes. I don't know why that is. I don't know why you would treat shows a certain way. I don't know if I have the right to talk a lot about Harvey Beaks because still to this day I have not seen a single episode, but it looked like a very charming and fun show. But I guess I can use the Fairly Odd Parents when talking about this bit because I was a Fairly Odd Parents fan. I'm sure a lot of us are, but again, not to repeat myself, was already out the door, but I mean, it should have ended a long time ago. But I remember the Fairly Odd Parents at one point aired its episodes on Nicktoons, and then that was it. I don't know what it is about Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network is also default for this, where, you know, they don't treat every show with respect. I mean, you make big deals out of your top shows, but when it comes to the little shows that could be very popular as much as any other popular show on your network, why would you try to slowly kill it off instead of making it part of your brand and praising it? I mean, why couldn't Harvey Beaks or the last season of Fairly Odd Parents, no matter how bad it was, or Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or even Glitch Tex? Tech Glitch? What's that show? Glitch Tex? It was that animated show that never made it onto Nickelodeon. How come those shows and various other shows that I didn't mention, which got poor promotion and were treated horribly, why weren't they getting the same treatment like SpongeBob was? It's a question that we will probably never get an answer to because it's business talk. Business. That is until April 15th of last year came about, where we got introduced to a new show that shocked not just me, but probably everybody on how really good it was. A little show called The Loud House. Created by Chris Savino, The Loud House is a show that surrounds the life of a little boy named Lincoln Loud, who is the only boy and middle child of his family. Together there are 13 members of Lincoln's family. There's the mom and dad, there's him, and then you have his 10 sisters, Lori, Lenny, Luna, Lana, Lynn, Lena, Lucy, Lola, Lisa, and Lily. I think one of those names are wrong. I think you may have said the wrong name. Alright, sisters. Lori, Lenny, Luna, Luann, Lynn, Lucy, Lana, Lola, Lisa, Lily. Yes. Those are the names of the sisters. Who is Lena? I saw the premiere episode, I saw the full week of new episodes, and I was generally surprised. I think the story is very creative, seeing that it focuses on one boy trying to deal with his sisters, specifically 10 of them. Like, this isn't just one of those sibling shows. This is a sibling show times 2, because there are a lot of siblings. I think I said it at the very beginning, it is a very unique concept to have a show that represents a really big family, which I don't think is something that's represented a lot in television, both adult content and children's content. I think it would relate more to kids' content. Because there's always a kid out there that I know will probably wonder, does this happen to anybody else? Is there anybody else that can relate to my situation? I think Malcolm in the Middle is the only other show that I am aware of that consists of a really big family. But I thought this was a pretty unique and interesting idea. Did you know, here's a fun fact, did you know that an original concept of this show was supposed to focus on bunnies? I only know that because there was an episode of The Loud House where Lincoln imagines that his whole family are bunnies, but there aren't 11 of them, there's like 50 of them. Another one of the episodes, which happens to be one of my favorites, is where he goes into his sister's Lisa's room and messes with an experiment she was doing with, and it basically alters all the girls' personalities. Which is another thing that this show has going for. All the sisters have different personalities. You have the smart one, you have the popular one, you have the pretty but dumb one, you have one that thinks she's a beauty queen, you have one that's a tomboy, you have one that's a girly girl, you even got a little baby girl. When you do the show that has a lot of characters like The Loud House, I give props to the writers and the people behind the show because I know it must be extremely difficult to juggle so many different characters. Because you have so many different stories and personalities that you have to flesh out and make sure they all flow really well while still trying to tell one consistent story. That's why I give major props to the Duffer Brothers on Stranger Things. They deal with so many characters that it's disgusting. I have not talked about Stranger Things on the Wild Review, so don't expect me to react to a video of me talking about Stranger Things at any point. Should I do a special where I just talk about Stranger Things? I have a lot to say about that show. I also like the concept that every sister has a different personality. I think that was also very unique. I mean, I think it was necessary, of course, because you don't want all the characters to be the exact same. You're already dealing with so many different characters. It would become a very big headache, I believe, if you made them all very similar to one another. So having one of them be the goth one, the tomboyish one, the smart one, the baby. Well, you have no choice but to be the baby or child, but I definitely think that's a very unique aspect to the show and to all the characters. Another thing that the show has going for it are the parents. Now, the show doesn't focus much on the parents, but the parents are very unique in the show because they're kind of like how Timmy Turner's mom and dad were in the Oh Yeah cartoon shorts before the Fairly Odd Parents show, because the mom and dad never reveal their faces in the show. That is until this year's Christmas special where they decided to show their face. Which isn't a bad thing. You know, I expected that they would show their faces at some point. I also wouldn't be surprised if they never showed their face, because that's just kind of how the cartoon rolled. But I kind of feel like they did it a bit too early. Like, I expected the show to go on for a little more time, and then they would show their faces. But I guess it fits in with the Christmas theme because it's a special episode, and yeah, I kind of hope they don't keep the faces for the remainder of the show, because that's what they had going for, but alright. I think it would have been a major problem had they kept the faces of the parents hidden for so long, let alone if they never showed the faces of the Loud parents. The show, I believe, is on its 6th season. We have a lot of episodes of this show. So looking back on what we've gotten so far from The Loud House, I think it was the right move to have them reveal their faces towards the end of season. Was the Christmas episode a season 1 episode or a season 2 episode? I keep thinking that it was the end of season 1. Let's find out, let's go online. 11 Louds A-Leaping is the 3rd episode of season 2. Alright, fine. With the parents hiding their faces, that does make it a little difficult for them to be really part of the show. You'll notice later on throughout the series that episodes slowly start to become more about the parents, or they'll just focus on one sister. That's kind of how the show starts to evolve after season 1. We no longer get episodes that focus on Lincoln trying to deal with his annoying sisters. We get episodes that strictly focus on Lincoln with his group of friends, or episodes with some of the sisters, or just one sister on their own. And in this case, we do get episodes that focus merely on the parents. There's specifically an episode where the parents are annoyed that there is only one bathroom in the house, so they secretly build their own bathroom in their own room, but the word secretly is a key element in that story because they try to keep it a secret from the kids, so this way they don't lose that privilege of having their own bathroom. I think if they were to do something like that with their faces hidden, it would not only possibly come off annoying, but it would definitely make things really difficult. We would also have these really awkward close-ups because you can't just blur out a face or not draw a face if you're in this area of the screen. You'd have to be really up close, or the characters would have to be extremely tall. So it would definitely become a bit of an issue if they didn't do that early on. I think the Christmas episode actually best suits the reveal of their faces, because Christmas, it's magical. On the topic, real quick, of episodes focusing on one individual, this show takes it to a next level and has some episodes focus on Clyde, who is Lincoln's best friend. There are even some episodes that focus on the pets in the family. We get episodes about the family bird and dog and cat. The animals get their own episodes. The Lighthouse, without a doubt, is still a really enjoyable and good show. I really enjoy watching it now, so really nothing has changed. I think it's one of Nickelodeon's better cartoons that have come out in the last few years. I think it's also one of the only major new cartoons that is still kind of relevant. I know they've had a few other cartoons come out lately in the last few years, but you can't really say you have original decent content when you have shows such as the Smurfs. I think they have Transformers now. There's the Star Trek show. That's on Paramount Plus. We have Middlemost Post, which does seem pretty original, but it just kind of seems weird, and I never looked into it. But it's okay, we got 2 SpongeBob spin-offs because we needed a show all about Patrick. I'd like to take this opportunity now to give my opinion on what I think about The Loud House now and what has transpired over these last few years ever since this video. The Loud House is still relatively the same, with a few changes. Specifically, they have aged up the characters, which is actually really interesting. So it was at the start of season 5 where everybody was aged up. Lori, who was the oldest sibling, she went off to college. They aged Lily up a little by giving her a little extra hair, and she wears a shirt now. And Lincoln and his friends transferred from elementary school to middle school. So essentially all the characters have aged up 1 year, which is really cool. I may have already said this at some point, but I find the idea of aging up characters to be really fascinating, especially in a cartoon, because that's just not a thing that happens. Usually everybody stays in a floating timeline, so if you're 10 years old in the pilot, you're essentially 10 throughout the remainder of the series. The Loud House is overstaying their welcome? Question mark? The show is definitely good, but I think they're coming to a point where they're starting to run out of ideas, maybe? I mean, there's still some unique stuff that has gone on, but, I mean, is it too much to say that too many good things happen to this family? Is that weird to say? I feel like the Loud family always comes out winning in some sort of way. Like, there are consequences. I said this about the Dan Schneider stuff. The characters do face a lot of consequences when stuff happens, but I feel like it's kind of strange that for the most part, things are just fine by the end of the episodes. Like, any enemies in the beginning, they magically become friends at the end. Is it weird that the animals are able to communicate with them? Like, they speak to animals, and the animals just understand everybody. Everybody's just kind of too friendly, I think. I should probably talk about this bit. The Loud House has 2 films. 2! Count them. 2 SpongeBob spin-offs. And they were actually both really good. The first one, which shamefully didn't get any promotion, I remember seeing a trailer once on YouTube, and that's it, was the Loud House movie, which was a really unique film. It was very interesting, the songs were very catchy, and the story was overall really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I don't have that much to say about it, other than I'm just a little disappointed Nickelodeon didn't promote the hell out of it. Like, it was on Netflix, #1, so why wouldn't you put it on your own network? Also, why wouldn't you put it in theaters unless this premiered in COVID times? Did it premiere in COVID times? August 20th, 2021. Maybe. Theaters were open then. David Tennant and Michelle Gomez are in it. Both people who have been in Doctor Who, so that's cool. I mean, the story was interesting. It was a cute story. It was a fitting story for an animated television show. What I really liked in it was in the beginning we get to see the progression of the family grow. Like, we get to see the parents meet each other, and then all the siblings one by one are born. So that's really cool. The second movie, which is not a sequel at all, but I guess in a way can be a sequel because it's about the same thing. I first off want to just say I find it really interesting that I finished watching the Loud House movie, and then 2 days after I watched this film, they start advertising a Loud House Christmas, which is their live-action Christmas movie, and it was August. You have been in production with the Loud House animated film for how many years, and you don't get any promotion, but you do a live-action film, and you start promoting that crap in August? Huh? That film was cool too. Some bits were bad. The green screen was not great at all, and some of the dialogue and the actions were very cheesy, but it felt like an episode of the Loud House. I think it was done by the same people who did the Loud House. I could be very wrong, but it felt like something that would come out of the show. But the biggest thing I have to compliment, which I know some people may argue with me on, is their casting. Holy Christ, was the casting genius in all this. Some of these kids in this film legitimately are live-action counterparts of these cartoon characters. It was freaky how similar some of them actually looked like some of the characters, and they nailed every moment of all these characters. They hit every mark when it came to these personalities. I'm spitting. The kid Wolfgang, whatever his last name is, he was pretty good in the lead role. I hear the kid that played Clyde has actually gone on to voice Clyde in the animated series now, which is really interesting. And they have Brian Stefanik, is that how you say the name? Brian Stefanik? They have him who voices Lynn Loud, the dad in the cartoon. He actually plays the dad in the film. The reporter in the film, I believe, is also the same actress who voices the reporter in the show. I was just really amazed with the film. Like I said, it was corny and cheesy. It wasn't that spectacular, but I was just blown away by some of the casting choices in this. Some of the actors are actually related to each other. I think some of the sisters in this film are actually sisters in real life or cousins. It's a family thing. It's a family film. After watching A Loud House Christmas, I was definitely on board to see, like, a sequel. Like, I know that may sound weird, because wishing that they would do another live-action film, you know, you would fear that it would fall into the Fairly Odd Parent pit, where they did all these live-action films and they were horrible, so there's that fear that a sequel would be really bad. But we're getting something better, I guess, because Paramount Plus has announced they're going to do a live-action TV series of The Loud House. Apparently the film did so well, they're bringing everybody back to do an actual television series. Which I don't understand how that's going to work at all, because the animated show is still going on. It's like that news with Dora. Aren't they doing an animated Dora reboot and then a live-action Dora reboot? How's that going to work? So there's one more bit of The Loud House that I kind of need to discuss, and it's the discussion of a new sibling. Part of me feels like they're going to be introducing another sibling because, I don't know, a show that focuses on the life of a boy in a house with 10 sisters, a new baby would seem to fit in with those kind of shows. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I'd be surprised if it didn't happen. I'd be very surprised. It's been 5 to 6 years now since The Loud House has been on TV, and surprisingly enough, they have not introduced a new family member yet. In terms of a new baby. Like, I'm surprised that that hasn't become a story yet. I definitely know when I made this video, I expected that at some point we would get another Loud member, which is really interesting because you think they would. In a show that physically focuses on a big family, you would think they would introduce a new family member. and make a story out of that, but they haven't done that at all. I'm going to be really amazed if we go this whole entire series from start to finish, even with all the spin-offs and the films, where there is no mentioning, thought, or story element that even hints that we're going to get a new baby in this film. Show. With that said, that's all I have to say about The Loud House. Overall, I think it still is a really interesting show. Is it overstaying its welcome? Maybe. I mean, every show does have to end at some point. I think it has had a great run. I'm just hoping they don't milk the hell out of it like they are doing with SpongeBob, but I guess time will tell. For now, though, that brings us to the end of this episode of Rewild. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to check out this video, this episode of the Wild Review, where I talk about The Loud House, it'll be in the description below. Also, a playlist to Season 1 will be in there, maybe even something special for you. I don't think something special will be down there for you. Don't count your blessing on that. What do you think about what I had to say about The Loud House? Do you agree or disagree with anything that I said in both videos? And also let me know any suggestions you have on any other Wild Review episode that you would like me to look over. I got a few of these lined up, like I've been saying, but I'm always open to taking suggestions of some episodes that may not be on this list. Maybe they're episodes I haven't even thought about talking about. Let me know, and maybe I'll make a future Rewild out of it. For now, though, I'm gonna go back into my hole until next week. Thanks again for watching The Wild Review on The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing.
Wild like wild.
What the hell was that?